Next, this word aware, A-W-A-R-E, is very much connected with the Buddhist feeling for the transience of life. That everything is change and nothing at all can be held on to or possessed. This feeling of transience is at the root of the philosophy of poverty that exists in Buddhism, and has a curious difference in it from the Christian philosophy of poverty, as, say, explained by St. Francis of Assisi. It's cognate to it, it's like it, but a little subtle difference. Somehow one feels in the Christian emphasis on poverty that poverty contrasts with richness as good to evil. In other words, poverty is unpleasant, but it's something you ought to share with the poor who live unpleasant lives. So if you are to expiate your sins, well, you ought to be poor and to live roughly. And so, for this reason, in Buddhism, one would not say so much poverty as one would say simplicity. Not going without, not clinging to things because it's good for you, but because it is actually the happiest way to live. Because nothing is more terrifying than the state of chronic anxiety which one has if you are subject to the illusion that something or other in life could be held on to and safeguarded, and nothing can. So the acceptance of everything flowing away is absolutely basic to freedom, to being unsui, a cloud water person who drifts like cloud and flows like water. But in this, we mustn't take ourselves too ridiculously. I mean, naturally, all human beings have in them a certain clinging. See, you can't let go totally. You wouldn't be human if you did. You can't be just a leaf on the wind, or just a ball in a mountain stream, to use a Zen poetic phrase. Because if you were that, you wouldn't be human. Just as I pointed out that a person with no emotions, who has completely controlled his emotions, is a stone Buddha, so a person who would be completely let go would also be some kind of an inanimate object. So Zen very definitely emphasizes being human, being perfectly human as its ideal. And so to be perfectly human, one must have not a state of absolute detachment, but a state of detachment which contains a little bit of resistance, a certain clinging still. They say in India of a Jivan Mukta, a man who is liberated in this world, that he has to cultivate a few mild bad habits in order to stay in the body. Because if he were absolutely perfect, he would disappear from manifestation. And so the yogi, great yogis, maybe he smokes a cigarette or has a bad temper occasionally, something that keeps him human. And that little thing is very important. See, it's like the salt in a stew. It grounds him. Well, this is another way of saying that even a very great sage, a great Buddha, will have in him a touch of regret that life is fleeting. Because if he doesn't have that touch of regret, he's not human, and he is incapable of compassion towards people who regret very much that life is fleeting. So the mood aware is that touch of regret, of nostalgia, of, you know that poem which speaks of the feeling of a banquet hall deserted. Here it is, there's been a great banquet, and it's all the guests have gone home, and there are empty glasses and dirty plates and crushed napkins and all sorts of things all over, And somehow the echo of voices and merriment is still there. And so this mood, aware, comes up. So even a very great person should feel that, because the price otherwise is not to be human. So for this reason, Buddhist and Taoist poetry is not unemotional. It's not dehumanized, and so somehow speaks very much to us as people, and does not have in it the feeling that we ought instead to turn into saints or supermen. That's the humane thing about this philosophy of life. The next word, the special term, is furyu. Furyu means literally wind flow. Fu is the character for wind, ryu means flowing. And the dictionaries translate it elegance, and this won't do. Furyu, first of all, you must remember that the word wind is used in Chinese and Japanese alike to indicate atmosphere. The atmosphere of a place. So when a person has, say, a certain school of poetry or philosophy, it's called the family wind. That means the atmosphere, the slant, the attitude of this particular school. So that meaning of wind, atmosphere, comes into the expression furyu. And furyu is like this. Here is a man fishing, and he's sitting in the evening, in the twilight, on the edge of a river with his fishing rod in a lonely little boat tied up by the bank. Now, if this man is fishing with his mind intent simply on catching fish, this is not furyu. But if he's also digging the atmosphere, it's furyu. To flow with the wind, you see, to dig the atmosphere. American offers the most beautiful possibilities of translation in our incomparable slang for some Oriental ideas. Furyu is to get with it, to flow with it. And not again, you see, in the sense of the merely passive leaf flowing on the wind. But furyu has in it, you see, a touch of self-consciousness, like that man fishing. Now, you would think if you studied Taoist philosophy that this would be very bad. Zhuangzi somewhere says that a comfortable belt is one that you don't feel, and you're unaware of it. That's not the most comfortable belt. Like comfortable shoes, would you be completely unconscious of comfortable shoes? No. Something better than comfortable shoes are shoes that you know are comfortable. So, in the same way, self-consciousness adds something to life. It's one thing to be happy and not know it. It's another thing to be happy and to know it. It's like one's voice in a shower room or bathtub has more resonance. And that's why temples and cathedrals and resonating boxes for guitars and drums and things are created, to give this little quality of echo. For all echo is a certain kind of feedback which enables you to reflect upon what you are doing and to know that you know. So one might say that ordinary people are Buddhas, but they don't know it. And the Buddha is one who knows he's a Buddha. Only, they don't let you settle for this comfortably and easily, because really to know is also defined as not to know. In the Upanishads, it is said that if you think you know what Brahman is, you have yet some study to be done. For those who know Brahman do not know Brahman, and those who do not know Brahman really know. Now, all this paradoxical language is intended to keep you confused, so that you can't say, I've got it. So, but this position, you see, is not one-sided. There is something about being human, about being self-conscious, that is not a mistake of nature, not a completely evil fall into self-awareness. But self-awareness, although it creates all kinds of problems, because through self-awareness, the human being is in some sense a self-frustrating mechanism. He knows that he's going to die, and the price of being able to control the future is to know that in the long run you won't be able to, and worry about that. But also, with self-consciousness goes the possibility of resonance, of realization, of becoming enlightened, liberated, and knowing it, and therefore able to enjoy it. So, Furyu adds to the dimension of going with it something more than the mere passivity of going with, but knowing that you're going. But it does at the same time, it isn't entirely wrong that the dictionaries have translated it elegance. You could say Furyu is style. When we say somebody really has style. Now, but this designates a particular kind of style. It is the style of what one might call the elegant poor man, the aristocratic bum, the rich pauper, you see. Now, you find that a good deal in the things that we've been seeing. We've gone to many temples where nobody really owns anything, and yet in a way they're luxurious. This is Furyu.